Hi, I'm Rebecca Donnelly, Children's Librarian at Potsdam Public Library. And I've got Linda Marshall with me today. Linda is the author of The Polio Pioneer, a picture book about Jonas Salk and the polio vaccine. And I'm so excited to have Linda here to talk about this, what is an incredibly timely topic, even though it's about something that happened quite a long time ago. Linda, would you like to tell us something about your book?
Thank you very much, Rebecca. And it is an absolute pleasure to be here with the patrons from the Potsdam Library. I really appreciate being here. And I don't know if there's a chat that you can type in questions, but if there is, I'm happy to answer. And if there isn't, please get in touch with your local librarian. And your librarian will get back to me and we'll team up and see what we can do to get answers to your questions. So, about the Polio Pioneer. Here's a copy of the book, The Polio Pioneer. It's the story of Dr. Jonas Salk and the polio vaccine. It's written by me, Linda Elovitz Marshall. I always use my middle name, Elovitz, because there's a zillion Linda Marshalls, and I want to make sure that hold on.
There we go.
Oops, sorry. My daughter is just calling and I had to decline her call, poor kid. She will probably call again because I do teach my children to be persistent, which is a great skill. In fact, we have to thank Dr. Salk for being persistent in wanting to do good things for people, which will bring me to telling you a little bit about this story. Now, before I open this book, let me tell you how I got the idea. Way back, like a half a century ago, I was a little girl and there was a really bad disease going around. It was called polio, and my parents were really worried. Polio seemed to make children and babies very sick. It made some adults sick too, but mostly it was children and babies. And one summer when the polio virus was especially strong, my mother took me and my brother, and we were living in Boston, and she took us to Hartford, Connecticut, which is where her parents lived. And there wasn't as much virus there. And she thought we would be safer. And we were lucky we didn't get polio. But many other people did. People were crippled, people died. And it made a big impression on me. Even when we came back from Hartford, we weren't allowed to go to swimming pools. We weren't allowed to go to lakes. It was hot summer. We couldn't go anywhere near the water. People thought, hold on a second. People thought that, it was my daughter again. Sorry. People thought that polio was transmitted through water. Mm-hmm. We couldn't go to movie theaters. We couldn't go any place where there might be a lot of people. Then a vaccine came along. It was invented by Dr. Jonas Salk. And little by little, life got much better. We stopped worrying about polio. We got to go to movies. We got to go swimming. And Jonas Salk was a hero. In fact, he was such a hero that when my first son was born, I named him Jonah for Jonas Salk. Oh, so now I'm going to read you a little bit about this.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, the Polio Pioneer. Dr. Jonas Salk and the polio vaccine. And this is written by me, Linda Elovitz Marshall, and it is illustrated by Lisa Anshin. It's published by Knopf Books, which is part of Penguin Random House Kids. People at the Victory Parade in New York City cheered, "Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! The war is over." It was 1918. The First World War had ended. But 4-year-old Jonas Salk did not cheer. Jonas saw injured and wounded soldiers. He saw soldiers unable to walk. Jonas Salk was a kid who saw things differently. His family was Jewish. They fled Russia and Lithuania to escape religious persecution. They came to America seeking safety. Every night, Jonas prayed that he could help make the world be a better place. Well, how could he do that? He didn't know. First he thought, well, maybe he'd be a rabbi. Then he thought, maybe it would be better if he became a governor or a senator or maybe president. And then he went to college and he got introduced to chemistry and thought, oh, chemistry, I'll make medicines. And by making medicines, I can make people feel better. And so he started developing medicines. The first one he developed was the vaccine for the flu. And in those days, the flu killed many, many people, more people than died in the whole World War I. The flu, which was called the Spanish flu, there was an epidemic and it was all over the world. Millions of people died. Jonas Salk and his teacher, Dr. Francis, worked together and they developed a vaccine that prevented the flu. It didn't cure it, it prevented it. And here we see people lined up to get their flu vaccine. The flu vaccine that Dr. Jonas Salk invented, along with Dr. Francis, is very similar to the flu vaccine that's used now. In fact, the flu vaccine that's used now came from that flu vaccine. But meanwhile, there was another disease, a very bad disease, the disease called polio that I told you about a little while ago. No one was immune. Not children, not even the President of the United States. What could be done? Dr. Salk knew he had to do something. He knew he had to work really hard. People were dying, children and babies, and even the president had gotten sick. Kids couldn't go to movies, they couldn't go swimming. Everybody had to stay in their own houses. So Dr. Salk got to work. With a team of scientists, he developed a vaccine. Then they tested it, and tested it, and they tested it. And it worked. People lined up for their shots, and pretty soon, polio was gone. Not just in the United States, but all throughout the world. People have been working to eradicate, to get rid of the polio virus, and it's working. Now people don't have to worry about the polio virus. So Jonas Salk was the kind of kid who saw things differently. He was a kid who wanted to make things better, to want to make the world a better place. You know anybody like that? Maybe you're a kid like that. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. And unfortunately, this book that I first started writing 3 years ago, way before COVID-19, speaks very much to what we're going through right now. It's about a virus, it's about vaccines, and it's about hope. So we're lucky that vaccines are being developed. They're on trucks right now. The first ones are being administered. And pretty soon, we can all line up, just like the kids in the book, and get our shots. And soon we won't have to worry anymore. I hope that day comes very, very soon. I really do, for all of us. Thank you.
Oh, I hope so. And it's so striking to me that we're talking about this the day after the first person in the United States got the coronavirus vaccine. You know, how amazing. And as you pointed out, of course, you've been thinking about this story for a very long time, but you started working on it as a book that was going to be published long before the coronavirus came around. That's just the way that publishing works, is things are in the works for years before they come out. And it just happened to come out in this year when it is a very timely sort of topic. So you had this personal experience with polio when you were with being around the polio virus and understanding it as a child. Can you tell us something new or interesting that you learned in your research as you were working on the book?
So I'm a kind of researcher who, as they say, leaves no stone unturned. I read everything I could about Dr. Jonas Salk, and then I got really gutsy. And I went to the Salk Institute in California. I got to see that. I got a wonderful tour. But even gutsier than that, I contacted Dr. Jonas Salk's son, Peter.
Oh, wow.
And Dr. Peter Salk was amazingly helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So he read all of my drafts. He said, help me explain the science of vaccines and the science of viruses, mm-hmm. because it's important to me to explain everything correctly. I don't want people to learn something and then have to learn it all over again because I didn't teach it right.
Right.
So he was great help. And so the wonderful thing that I learned was that in addition to Dr. Salk being a wonderful researcher and a very kind and understanding person, he produced 3 wonderful children who were very helpful. So that's a great thing to learn. And I'm just so happy to find that out.
Oh, I know. I always love doing that kind of hands-on research. And so we're almost out of time here, but so you gave us you did that wonderful presentation. And I can tell that your enthusiasm for children's curiosity really comes through, because it takes a curious child to grow into a curious adult and then make some of these discoveries. What is something that you really hope that kids get out of reading this book?
I really hope that there are other kids who want to grow up and do something wonderful. And there are lots of wonderful things that people can do. And some wonderful things are teeny and some wonderful things are big. But there are many, many wonderful things. And I just hope that everyone's curious and looks at the world and says, now, what can I do? How can I make things better? What can I do to make the world a better place? And I have to tell you, it took me a long time to figure that out for myself. And I'm so glad that I found writing children's books, because that's my little way of making the world a better place. And I should mention, if you would like to go to my website, www.lindamarshall.com, you'll see my other books and ways that I'm trying to make the world a better place. Some of them are funny. Have you ever seen a ziz? It's just because laughter makes us, we need to laugh. Some are a little bit more serious. Grandma Rose's Magic. This is funny. Mommy, Baby, and Me. It is about a dog that feels left out.
Aww.
When, yes, my husband's going to come and answer his phone in a moment. And the pleasures of working from home. And Rainbow Weaver, which is in both English and Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful story that is set in Guatemala. And I was able to go and do hands-on research and lots more. So go to my website, hang on. Of course, we need to know more about Anne Frank. This is the story of the girl heard all around the world. Published by Scholastic. It also came out this year, as did Saving the Countryside, about Beatrix Potter and how she and Peter Rabbit.
Oh, how interesting.
Yes.
So you've had a busy year.
To save the countryside. I've had a very busy year. And this is like a little nuts here. Everybody's decided to call all at the same time. So including the landline, which rarely rings.
Well, Linda Elovitz Marshall, thank you so much for being here and telling us about your books. I think books for kids, and especially STEM books, are such a wonderful way to encourage kids' curiosity. And thank you for the books that you put out there. And thank you for talking with me today.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I really appreciate this. Bye to everybody. And any questions, let Rebecca know. And somehow or other, we will try to answer them.
That's
Bye.
right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.